is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. I can't believe it. This is episode number 50. And we're recording this live on November 6th, 2011. Now, this is Daylight Savings Time. We are completely off. But I do remember my name. It is Rob Woodbridge from Untethered.tv. You can find me, obviously, at Untethered.tv and at Rob Woodbridge on the Twitter. And with me, as always, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Mr.
Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association.
Obviously found at thelbma.com or at the LBMA, and Asif R. Khan, at Asif R. Khan as well on the Twitter sphere. Man, Asif, I don't know about you, but we were a little bit discussion before. We were talking about this daylight savings time. It always throws the day off, it seems, doesn't it?
Totally does. I mean, it's feeling way later than it is to me, and I can tell you with just the whole day with the family and everything, it was just crazy. Like, just everybody's off.
Tantrums, a lot of crying, a lot of I'm hungry, and that was just me, right? That's the kind of the day it was today. I don't know what it was like, but my kids were
You had to have that extra coffee today, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I had to. I'm still drinking it. Yeah, but definitely, I woke up this morning and it was like something was off, and I got a good night's sleep, and I'm like, oh, it's 8:30. I gotta get out of bed, and that's late. And my kids come in, we go downstairs, and I say, what, wow, it seems a little late. And he said, Dad, daylight savings time. My kid's 5. He just had to remind me about this. It's terrible. It's terrible. So this, aside from it being daylight savings time, we fall back November 6th. This is also episode number 50, which is a very significant episode for something. I don't know. We're middle age.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're on a slow decline to 100, and that's where we end the episodes? Or are we just going to continue to do this?
No, we're going to keep going. This is we're growing. People are we're getting more and more feedback every week, and I think this is an industry that needs more, we'll do our best to provide it.
50. 50. We're coming on. We're 2 weeks away from our first anniversary. That's incredible. That's incredible. I don't know about that, but yeah. So with 50, there's a lot going on, but again, we're kind of in this lull of content. There's a lot of announcements, a lot of launches. We're going to talk about this. Kevin Rose launched his new company or his new app, Oink. Square. We're going to talk a little bit about Square. We're going to talk about UrbanAirship and SimpleGeo. We have to talk about the Groupon IPO. We're going to talk about the demise of Bizzy. We're going to talk a lot about this stuff. But first, you spent the week in the city, but you're heading off this week for another event.
Yeah, so I'm in New York for most of the week this coming week at something called Consumer Engagement Technology World. Really a show that happens twice a year on the East Coast and West Coast of the U.S., and heavily focused on the digital out-of-home aspects of technology, but as it relates to our world, it's how digital out-of-home and mobile and location-based services are all coming together. So I think it should be a great week, and I think a lot of interesting discussion on further integration and movement between those companies as we see that integration happen. So. Well,
if you happen to be there, look Asif up, send him a note, send him a message, direct message him on Twitter, do whatever you need to do. Before we jump into the stories, I do want to remind everybody that we are available on iTunes. We always forget to say this, and I'm going to do it up right at the front. You can subscribe to the RSS feed through iTunes. There is an audio and a video feed, and I'll tell you this, is that quite often this thing gets published quite a bit before it actually goes up on both of our websites in the morning on Mondays. It usually gets published by around midnight the night before. You can have a little jump on what's going on, and if you probably have a 12-hour time or a 12-hour head start from everybody else if you subscribe to the RSS feed through iTunes. So why don't you just do it? Look up location-based marketing. This Week in Location-Based Marketing, and you'll find it there. Always forget to push that, but we're pushing it today. Episode number 50. I think that's the first time we've mentioned it. Should we jump into this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about this. This is interesting. This company, this UK-based company called CSR, building GPS on a chip, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing here is so they've got a series of products under the brand Cypher, and so they've got this thing called Cypher Primal, Cypher Fusion, Cypher Star, a whole bunch of things, and I think the interesting thing here is that what they've looked at is, this kind of coming together world of both indoor and outdoor location. So the outdoor location, obviously, which is about GPS, it's about satellites, it's about how do we bring all that together and kind of be able to determine some position from that perspective. And then indoor location, which historically we've relied on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all these things. And they've said, look, let's turn this, all of this kind of location detection capability, let's put it all on a chip, and let's enable these devices to to be able to find someone's location faster and with better kind of software integration to the systems that they're in. And these guys primarily target vehicle P&D type systems. So the and what I like about this is that I've had the opportunity recently to kind of talk to some of the car companies, and I think across the board you could say there's a recognition that every vehicle going forward, regardless of make or model, is going to be considered a device that's connected to the internet all the time, that is aware of its location, and aware of its occupants and the relationship between all of those things. And so putting this stuff in onto a chip, being able to determine location from that perspective has huge importance.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, this is a market that is is now emerging, but you're right. This is part of that internet connected devices. Everything from your car to the lamp to your toaster will be connected. But I like what these guys are doing, especially focusing on the auto market. But they're also talking about embedded GPS on a chip for a smartphone, which is also, I mean, it's very cool. And one of the things that they've talked about is reducing the power consumption of the GPS, which is always on. It's, when you're carrying your iPhone, you turn your GPS on, it's always on, it's draining your power. But what they're saying is that on the chip, they can actually make it go to sleep, and this is what they're working on. They say it's not very easy, but they can make it go to sleep until there's actual motion, and then it kicks in, and then it triangulates where you are, and based on your last location, and it becomes very efficient on the battery, very efficient in tracking, waking up and tracking you right from the get-go. Speed.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So they're not just looking at the location piece; they're actually tying in the other sensors on that mobile device, right? So the the gyros and the compasses and accelerometers and all that stuff, right? So yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, and I think it's great. It's certainly on the chip. Big advantage, and built-in GPS to the car, and they're talking about reducing the actual cost of still floors me is that you're paying $4,000 or $5,000 for a built-in unit in a car, a GPS unit, and they're talking about reducing that to a couple $100, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to hear. That's disruptive. And they're talking about this stuff arriving mid 2012.
Right.
Okay. So
anyway, so watch for that. Watch for CSR and Cypher.
CSR and Cypher, very cool. We'll include a link somewhere up there to these guys, because it really does. This is pretty cool technology. It's hardware, but it's cool technology. Second story, which is a really interesting one. Our good friends Square actually putting out doing mobile payments through voice recognition. And through their CardCase, this updated iPhone only right now, iOS application.
Coming to Android very soon, but at the moment iPhone only. So, yeah, if you're not familiar with Square, basically it's a little. If
you're not familiar with Square, just shut this off.
But yeah, some people aren't. Tiny little square device, you plug it into your iPhone or mobile phone, and basically you can process a credit card through it, a swipe credit card through it. Yeah. And so merchants have been doing this. A lot of merchants have been doing this. The numbers say about 20,000 merchants in the U.S. are now accepting payments on the latest version of this. They've shipped some 800,000 readers so far. And you can buy these things everywhere now. Like you can
Walmart
get them in Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Radio Shack, all over the place.
Even the Apple stores are carrying this, aren't
yeah,
they?
Exactly. So I mean, this is something that's not going away. I mean, Square is doing a good job of kind of disintermediating, the traditional, credit card payment systems that the merchants have had because of the high fees. Now, what this latest thing is so this app's called CardCase. Built into it is they're leveraging some of the new functionality in iOS 5. with something called automatic tabs. And so effectively, about I'm not sure, was it 6-7 months ago, Rob, they announced the merchant platform for Square. So it's called Square Register. I think it was back in April or May, somewhere around there. Anyway, so they announced this thing called Square Register back in the late spring, and that's the merchant piece. Basically, it's your ability to track the transaction on the merchant side. And so if there's a merchant that's using that system, and you walk in and you've got the CardCase app on your platform, what they're doing is that the merchant system can actually detect you as you walk into the store automatically through this thing called automatic tabs. And so it just detects that you're in the area, it knows you're there, and then all you have to do is just walk up and basically say your name, and they can recognize you and say, yeah, okay, we know who this guy is, he's on the system, go ahead and buy whatever you want, you're good to go, kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's I think it's a bit of a stretch to say it's payments by voice. I'm not, but it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool that you can just kind of walk into a place and the system automatically recognizes you without you saying anything or doing anything.
Hi, my name's Rob, and then it pays for me. Now, okay, so I can understand the Square value proposition is very clear. It's like, listen, there are many millions of people and many millions of companies that would love to accept credit cards but cannot because they do not qualify for a merchant account, right? This is their spot, and I love that they're going after that market. It makes a lot more sense when you start to think about it like that. It's like banking for the unbanked. This is credit card transactions for the uncredit card transactionable, right? And they're doing $2 billion a year in transactions, and they're doing exceptionally well. And I love that value proposition. And while this is a neat widget, I always scratch my head and think, why? Man, is it so hard right now? And I'm a mobile guy. I'm a location guy. I'm a digital guy. But is it really so hard, really, to use your phone or use a credit card? Does this really save time? The way I look at this is that it's a neat feature, ultimately pretty useless. So I can walk up and say my name, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. But the one thing that's very interesting about this is the way that they have structured this. My guess is they're looking for a different way to make some money on this, because this is that there's a proximity sensor that says, listen, you're within 100 meters of the store. So the way that it works is that the Square Merchant application pops up when I walk into within that basically 100-meter range, and it says, hey, Rob is within 100 meters, and it pops up with my personal information, my name, everything like that. And then this is where it gets interesting, because they're very vague on what that means. But my guess is that the merchant could then, if they were so inclined to, push me a deal or push me an incentive to come into the store. And I think that's really where Square can start to make a lot of dollars, and maybe offset the cost of using the system.
Remember, I mean, one of the founders of Square is Jack Dorsey, right? So this is the founder of Twitter.
Yeah.
And so this system, this CardCase app, has full Twitter integration built into it. And so as you say, it pops up. It says Rob's in the area. There's nothing to say you can't push out a direct message or tweet offer or incentive to walk into your actual location. So, I agree. I agree with you there. In terms of the value itself of the service, on the one hand, I'll agree with you and say not a lot there. On the other hand, I'll actually take the opposite side and say, humanizing the experience a little bit, being able to actually walk up and talk to somebody, as opposed to, here's my phone, stick it in their face. Okay. I kind of like that, I don't know about you, but, I like talking to people. And so,
even if it's just saying my name.
Even if it's saying my name or that's the conversation starter or whatever, it does humanize it a little bit. So, I'll actually give them a point for that one.
Well, it's interesting, but again, it's for the guys who are using this technology for the most part, I don't want to lump people into a group, but we're not the most social of people. We keep our head down. We got really strong muscles in the back of our neck because we're all day texting. We're not calling. We're not communicating. We're not talking to anybody anymore. So the idea that you walk up and you say your name, anyways. I mean, it's interesting. this is just testing, right? This is
Sure.
we're in that spot where we're testing things, and Square's doing that. And they have in a very short period of time started to eat into MasterCard and Visa's global domination. They're at about 10% the reach of these guys now, which is pretty insane when you come to think about it. And any other competitor before them hasn't reached this spot this quickly. So whatever they're doing right. I'm not going to criticize them.
Yeah,
this is a gimmick, though.
When you look at the total spend on, in terms of transactions over mobile, I mean, that $2 billion is a significant number. I mean, and eBay, like on the PayPal side, is supposed to do, I think they're projected to do $3 billion.
Yeah, 3.5.
This year. So I mean, together, I mean, there's $5.5 billion.
And close to 20% of the reach, right?
Yeah, so, I'm sure Visa and MasterCard aren't too happy about that.
Not at all. But Square's, so they're adding the payment. You can pay by voice. I suppose it's
there. You go.
Well, again, it's just I think it's a gimmick. Seep gives them credit, so we're kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah. Right? So it's a neutral.
We'll see if we can get Mr. Verbonis on the show.
Well, yeah, I'd love to see that. Come on. Speaking of a guy who's not going to be on the show.
And bring some of that Square love to Canada too.
I'd love to see that.
Anyways.
But speaking about guys who are not going to be on the show, let's talk about Kevin Rose's new company or new application, okay? I've reached out to Kevin and his team and said, listen, I'd love to have somebody from Oink or from Milk to talk about Oink on the Untitled.tv. But I waited like everybody else did. They launched Oink this week. First, do you have a quick way to describe what Oink is?
It's kind of like Instagram, Yelp, and Foursquare. I'm reading their press release. It's Instagram, Yelp, and Foursquare all put together. It's basically nothing new. I got nothing good to say about this thing, honestly. So they say it's like Instagram, Yelp, and Foursquare put together. So you basically take photos, you tag locations to those photos. And then the key that they say is their big differentiator is the Yelp piece. It's about recommendations tied to those photos that you're taking, rankings, of those things. And I'm sitting here going, don't we have this already? Like, I mean, we've got food spotting, we've got Snapet that we talked about recently on this show that does the same thing for clothes and fashion. You got the Eve guys that we covered recently over in the UK that are doing, this kind of, location-based, photo stuff. We covered Flickr, the other day. That's, back in this space and going to do great things. I don't get it. I don't get, where Oink's going to add value. So, Mr. Rose, please come on the show and explain it to us, but I don't get it.
We'd love, I mean, there's got to be some. This is where it gets blurry, right? Which is the cult of celebs, right? And certainly Kevin is a celebrity among the digerati. He's a guy that knows a lot of guys, and his friends are influencers like Vaynerchuk and all these guys, right? So this is one of those things that when you put out there, and if it was just you or I releasing this application, we would get nothing. It would be a no big deal. It would be like we would look at it and say, God, we would pan it. Here's another one of these apps, as you've said. I downloaded it, I played with it, I rated a couple of things. It's very complicated. The UI is not generally easy to use. It's not favorable. It's too complicated. And I don't get it either. But you know what? Maybe it's just because he's on a different plane. I don't know what it is, Asif, but
I don't know. But
I have comfort.
What here is here's a guy that people know, as you say, and therefore he makes some noise when he announces it. But didn't we hear this story with Color?
Yeah.
Like, look at all the fanfare with Color, right? And how much money they raised, and and now what?
Well, the one thing that I like about what Kevin's doing with Milk is the fact that he's funded it himself. He's got some angel investors. He's got a limited amount of money. He's still running this like a lean startup. And I would never discount the guy who created Dig, right? He was there at the beginning.
No. And for that he understands recommendations and all of that. Yeah. I'll give him that.
But I'm with you. I tried it a couple of times. It allows you to rate everything, so not just location-based stuff like restaurants and food and everything like that. But I can rate any inanimate object. So I rated an ISO bar, which is a protein bar. I rated on Tether.tv. I put it up there, and maybe it's just because proximity. We're in Canada, not a lot of users. There's a handful in Ottawa. But maybe we hold off judgment on this. But I think we've just judged it as a kind of WTF. I expect more, right? I expect some innovation coming from a guy like Kevin Rose, and this is by far, this is not it. This is just another check-in app.
Oink.
Oink. Stinker. Rolling some mud. So Kevin, if you want to come on, or anybody from Milk, if they want you want to come on, we are more than welcome. We are willing to be proven wrong. We really want we'd love some validation. So if you know anybody at Milk, anybody out there, look, we're open to this. Come on and talk to us about it. We won't be assholes. We'll definitely listen to it.
Yeah.
So enough on Kevin, but we'll be watching that closely. Fourth story: deCarta, working with the Chinese carrier or mobile telecom. What is it? ZTE? ZTE?
ZTE, yeah. ZTE Mobile, yeah.
ZTE Mobile, which is China's. They're the largest telecom provider in China.
I don't know if they're the largest, but they're certainly one of the biggest.
Well, yeah, they're a lot bigger than anything in Canada. How's that?
Yeah. There you go.
So these guys are working together.
Yeah, so they're working together. They announced this partnership, and there's actually a third part to this. Skyhook is part of this deal as well. So basically, the guys at deCarta is a company that's been around forever in the mapping and kind of data side of things. And so they're increasingly getting involved in kind of the new world of location-based service provision. So they announced as part of this deal with ZTE, they announced this relationship with Skyhook that brings them all of the kind of Wi-Fi access point, and other data that they don't have on their own. And so the combination of that, and kind of providing all of that kind of rolled together as a service to ZTE is interesting. And it's interesting because the thing in the Chinese market at the moment is that when Google pulled out earlier in the year and said we're not playing in China anymore, it created this huge void, and it created this void because now the carriers are sitting there going, we've got one of the biggest populations in the world, location-based marketing is a growing thing like it is everywhere else. How are we going to provide these services? Who's going to provide these services? In terms of the data sets and the maps and all that kind of stuff. And so, all these guys like Navtech and, deCarta and everybody else is kind of going in there and saying, hey, not only going in there, we've been here forever. We're still here. Google's gone, and we can serve your needs, and we can do that by providing you with the latest and the greatest by partnering with companies like Skyhook and giving you that quick access to the data that you need through easy to use APIs. So that's really what this is about.
Well, and boy, what a void that leaves having Google not being involved and massive opportunity obviously as it's growing. But I get the sense that in China it hasn't the location-based services. Haven't evolved the way that they have in North America. I don't think that a lot of people are checking in. I don't think that. I mean, it's obvious because Foursquare is only at 12 million, and they're the world leader in this, right?
Yeah, but remember in China, you've got companies like Jaipeng that are basically,
Yeah, but they're 1 million or 2 users, right? That's what we were talking about before.
Yeah, I think they're up about 2.5 to 3 million now, somewhere in that range. Yeah. I think the interesting thing though is, you're right. The numbers aren't there, but what is there is when you look at Jaipeng. And the differences between, say, even in Jaipeng and a Foursquare, is Jaipeng has had tons of success in, even with the limited user base that they have, in attracting major retail brands. Right. Everything from McDonald's to Louis Vuitton to all these guys. I mean, if you were to stack up their list of brands that they've worked with against the list that Foursquare's worked with, it'd be like night and day in favor of Jaipeng. Yeah. It's just that they don't have the base yet, so...
That's a really interesting piece, though, because I look at guys like Instagram and Foursquare with 12 million or 13 million users, and I start to think about this as kind of user hoarding, right? Where you get a massive audience, but you don't know the value of that audience because you haven't tested the value yet. Right. A lot of people are hesitant to put a revenue model on top of this or to start reaching out to them and trying to make some money off of them. But I like what Jaipeng's doing because, listen, those 2.5 million people are engaged people. Those are people that understand about location. They check in, they sign in. So they're looking at ways that they can...
people who watch this show every week, Rob.
Yeah.
right?
Well, absolutely.
It's a niche audience. It's people who are, interested in a specific space. It's not unlike the Jaipang user base.
Well, but that's it. I always think about that. Start turning that into revenue. 2.5 million people. I mean, that's the size of a great, a good sized city in North America. That's a lot of people. Start turning that into revenue, boy. And that's what I like about Jaipang. But when it comes to opportunity in China, there is not for lacking, and that's why these guys are. That's why deCarta's engaged with ZTE Mobile.
Yes.
And big opportunities there and big ups. But at some point maybe Google will walk back into China, and hopefully there's enough of a small company or guys like deCarta who are in there who are making some money off of this as well. So it's not just another Google-run country.
Yeah.
Last story here, which is this is an interesting one. This is InStream offering targeted receipts or targeted advertising through eReceipts, and everybody claims that they're the first and the only and the greatest and the biggest and the leader in the market. I mean, this isn't new.
No.
Anybody who's shopped at something like Banana Republic or a Gap and has received an e-receipt, it's not new to advertise. But again, showing a little bit of innovation when it comes to these things about pushing relevant ads, geolocated ads to people through their receipts. Maybe this isn't such a good idea.
I don't know. I mean, so anyways, so this is InStream. Basically, it's it is what it says. It's an e-receipt tool that, as you say, pushes geolocation ads. So the idea here is that we have a growing mobile user base world that is buying things, and increasingly will be buying things through their mobile phone directly. And so what that creates is this need to provide receipts in a digital form. Because if we're buying things online and we're buying things, through our phone, we still have to have a receipt, and so that comes in the form of an e-receipt. And so if we know where those things are being bought from a geolocation perspective, we can then push geo-relevant advertising on those receipts as they're delivered to you. The same concept applies, by the way, to credit card statements and other things as well. So I mean, the Amex and Visa, MasterCard, if they're doing things right, they know where you're shopping, they know where you're buying things. In your statements, you should be getting offers, or you could be getting offers. That are also geo-targeted in that fashion as well. It's not tied to the specific receipt per se, but tied to the transaction data that's there. So I think there's a lot of value here. We covered another company that was doing almost the same thing, I don't know, maybe a month ago, called ReadyReceipts. Yeah. So again, this isn't new, but I think it's interesting, and I think we're going to see more and more of this, emerge over the next, year or so.
Yeah, I would say so. This. Let me ask you this question, Asif, around this. We talk a lot about brands wanting to own their customers, and brands, now kind of shying away from third-party providers that are offering this service. Do you think this is one of those things that they tested out with a third-party provider and then bring it back in? Because I know that Gap Inc. has done that.
Yeah.
But so is this kind of a temporary solution, or can companies, do you think, make money doing this?
No, I think companies can make money doing this. I think what I expect to see here is that companies like this will exist for a while and then get acquired by some of the bigger point of sale players or other guys in the space. I mean, I could see an IBM or on the retail side or somebody like that picking up companies like this that have built a system that people are using for a user base and technology perspective. So yeah, I don't think. I'm just speculating here, but I would expect some easy acquisitions for companies like InStream or ReadyReceipts or things like that.
Yeah, I think definitely. But it's I guess it's a neat idea as time has come. InStream offering targeted ads through their e-receipts. I'd like to know what you think out there listening or watching this. What do you think about kind of receiving targeted ads based on your location inside a receipt from another company? And you, who are the retailer, who is that company, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about sending out a receipt and then having somebody else's ad being pushed onto you, if that's in fact the way that it works, right? So it's interesting, but maybe a little bit flawed. But we'd love to hear from you. And if anybody out there from InStream is listening to this, hey, come on to the show. We'd love to hear from you as well. You can reach out at untether@gmail.com, or you can reach Asif at thelbma.com. Those are the 5 stories. Going to quickly jump right into this funding side, because it's been 2 big deals, anyways, in our space that happened this past week, and one which was and the third, which is a company that we covered a while ago that they killed, right? They basically killed the service. So let's talk about this one first, which is. I love this company. I'm unabashed about it. I love what Scott Keaton is doing with UrbanAirship. I love the concept of this. And on your end, you love this company, SimpleGeo, this open source database of location, of obviously location data. And bam, they become one.
They are one. And they've already got the T-shirts. I saw, on some site there, they've already pushed out the T-shirts for the combined company. I'm like, nice. All right, cool. I think technology-wise, market-wise, I think this is a good combination. I think both these companies are great companies, and I think together they're going to be even better. I'm a little bit confused with the dollars and cents piece of this deal, however. So apparently the price was $3.5 million. That's SimpleGeo being acquired for $3.5 million. Sorry, excuse me. These are 2 companies that have been working together for a while, and I guess what confuses me is there's a lot more than $3.5 million that's gone into SimpleGeo. Yeah. They raised $10 million a little while ago. They raised another round recently. Matt Galligan stepped down, so we knew something was going on. So I'm confused about the financials, but that's not really for me to know, or you, or anybody, I guess. But technology-wise, fantastic. I think this is, this ability to push geo-targeted notifications inside of these apps that UrbanAirship's working on. That back-end, huge database of data coming from SimpleGeo. I think massive opportunities here.
Yeah, and people would look at this and say, well, isn't Apple going to be doing this? They've added in iOS 5 the ability to geolocate and push message to you, but that's only one platform.
Yes.
Right. That's only iOS, and what UrbanAirship covers is all platforms. And when you're trying to build out, when you're rolling out an application across all the platforms, you have to take that into consideration, how your messaging works and how push works based on location. And that's really where these guys have a strong competitive advantage. And so I love this move as well. Big ups for Scott and his team at UrbanAirship. And I don't know about the pricing. Who knows what that backstory is? Maybe they could make a go of it as SimpleGeo. But the fact that they've done this, it's just a natural flow for UrbanAirship. I love it. What else can you say?
No, it's great. It's great. So good luck.
Yeah, I'll do a plug that I'm going to have Scott back on Tether.tv to talk about this acquisition in the coming week. And
okay, that'd be great.
You should take a look.
Maybe we'll bring him on in a couple weeks.
What's that?
Maybe we should bring him on in a couple weeks.
I think that would be a good idea. Scott would be great for this. Second thing, maybe I'll change the order here. ReachLocal kills Bizzy.
Yeah.
Bizzy was a product that we covered a while ago, but was this a surprise to you?
A little bit. Yeah, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, because Bizzy's one of those things that I certainly found kind of interesting. And for those who aren't familiar or didn't hear us talk about Bizzy before, where Foursquare basically lets you share where you are, Bizzy basically allows you to kind of check in as you're leaving, or on the after you've just left a place, to basically share what you thought about the place. I thought they had some pretty good traction. I thought it was a pretty interesting product. Apparently it wasn't working.
Apparently it wasn't.
Apparently it wasn't working. And so ReachLocal is their parent company. A $3.3 million hit, apparently. It's a public company, ReachLocal, so all this is part of their latest earnings report. Stock took a huge hit. And I guess at the end of the day, if I had to sum it up, maybe kind of what Bizzy was doing, in terms of how you and I talk often, Rob, maybe it's just a feature. of something else. Maybe it isn't enough to be a product unto itself.
Yeah, and I think that's what it really is. But I mean, the speed with which this happened. So it's kind of about 60 days from their last major upgrade and for their application.
Yeah.
So they invested all that money into rebuilding this and rebranding and pushing it out, and then to kill it. So on one hand, it surprised me. On the other hand, I love the speed with which this stuff is happening. So if the product doesn't do what you're going to do, you think about the guys who built Turntable.fm. They had a product before that allowed you to basically check into products and brand products, and they said, you know what, we found something else. It's like the whole world of mobile is ADD, and whatever's shiny, we're going to go after. And I like the fact that there's a little bit of fiscal responsibility or a little bit of future thinking when it comes to something like this. That maybe Bizzy, we're not ready for it, or maybe it is a feature of somebody else's product, and they're going to be building it, and they've got the base, and that company's probably Foursquare, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So big surprise, but again, if you're out there building this, there's definitely an opportunity, I think, in this space, and you've got to be able to differentiate, though, and that's the key. Don't be somebody else's. Don't be a feature of somebody else's product, please. And maybe that's what Bizzy is. All right, biggest story this week, obviously, around all of this stuff was Groupon's IPO. So is this mea culpa? Do we look at it and say, well, we were wrong? This business, this industry is the greatest industry. This couponing is here to stay. The $12.9 billion valuation of the company is accurate. Do we just say, whoops, we were wrong?
No.
But Asif, they closed at 20. They closed up $6 at the end of the day.
Yeah. So they started at $20. They went up to 28. They're down to 26.
What do you say?
What do you say? They raised $700 million. So
silence from both of us.
What do you say? I mean, we knew they were going to do it. At the end of the day, I'm still going to say I don't think this is going to last. I expect this stock to tank. The model is not sustainable. They've got to find something else to do with this business. I talk to merchants every day that are like, we're never doing Groupon again. Mm-hmm. So they've got to solve these issues. They've got to figure out the loyalty piece. They got to get into the camp of level up and figure out what they're doing right and start doing some of that. I'm still not a Groupon guy. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to say that this is going to work. It's going to be there. It's going to be a public company. It's not going to go under or anything like that. But it's certainly not going to be $26.
Yeah, you know what? I
This is a $12 stock.
It's a $12 stock. Yeah.
There you go.
And even at $12, it still has a valuation of somewhere around the $6 to $7 billion. And but
they should have took the $6 billion.
You know what I've heard, and I don't want to speculate about what goes on inside this company, but I've heard some naysayers talk about this IPO as a Ponzi scheme, right? As a massive Ponzi scheme, and I just can't help but think that this is one of those things. I before the show I wanted to pull up maybe Netscape's opening stock market valuation, because when Netscape went public in 1995, it was the beginning of that .com era, and it opened up at $58 and had gave Netscape a valuation of close to $3 billion, and for a non-product, no revenue, so you can't really compare the two. So I threw that out, but I still look at this and think, man, it's just exuberance. That it's a one-day trade. I think day 2, which is coming by the time you listen to this, it'll be the beginning of day 2, and we'll see by the end of this coming week. We'll have this conversation with episode 51, and we'll see exactly where they are in terms of this, because you know what, they were up 30% from their IPO price. The market, the day on the market wasn't good, so it wasn't like they were buoyed by what was going on in the market. This was a single phenomenon around Groupon that pushed the stock price up, and who knows? Who knows? But again, regardless of what their stock price does, Asif, this is a terrible business to be in. I would be surprised to see this survive. Still, I'm with you on this.
Yeah, and I think part of it is that where the economy in the U.S. being where it is, and globally to some extent too, being where it is, people just want something good, right, to get behind. And I think from the investor perspective, a lot of the stories I read said, this was just a chance to go and do something, and to kind of be a little bit positive about the markets. And I agree. I think a week from now, when we're looking at this, it's not going to be anywhere near $26. It's just not.
Well, and I hope for people who got in, got out. Good for you. But it's not reflective of this company in a positive way. Even if they're close to cash flow positive, who knows what's going to happen with this company? But I do know that you merchants who are out there using Groupon as your marketing budget, stop doing that, because you're establishing a base price that is something that will not keep your business in business. Just do yourself a favor. Take away the syringe from your vein called Groupon and go and find some real customers that are going to pay full value for the products and services that you're offering. That's what I'm saying. All right, so UrbanAirship, buying a SimpleGeo we like. Groupon, the IPO, we're not so great about. And ReachLocal kills Bizzy. Probably a good move, but we'll see what comes up of that. And I'm gonna assume we're gonna see that feature somewhere else in somebody else's product, right?
Yes.
Well, let's jump on to the product of the week. And Lavahound.
Lavahound, yes. So little company out of Wayne, Pennsylvania. So an area I used to many years ago spend a lot of time in when I worked for a company that had an office there. So I know it well. This is an iPhone app again. Again, it's called Lavahound. And really, it's kind of like a combination. I think of it as a combination of scavenger with, it's kind of gaming, scavenger hunt kind of aspect to it, but focused on travel destinations. So it's kind of a little bit of scavenger and Gowalla. Gowalla. Did I say that word?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. They're still around, right? Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere here. Yeah.
Somewhere. Anyways.
They're not on my iPhone.
Interesting little product, So they're going after amusement parks. They're going after. They've got a pilot running with a place called Sesame Place, which is a theme park in that area. And so basically, they kind of hide things, treasure hunt around the theme park. You go around, you find things. You can find information about the place. So it's kind of like a little bit of a travel guide combined with scavenger hunt.
So it kind of forces you out there. So
go explore and go see what's out there.
This is interesting. They've got some good business models around university and corporate,
yes,
and enterprise. And I love the idea of the university. I talked with Sydney Matrix, who you probably know from. She's a professor at Queen's University in Kingston. And she's looking at ways of integrating social and local and mobile, all of that together for educational purposes. So she's one that wants to put QR codes and everything and talk about the history. So you scan it and you get the history of that monument or whatever. This, to me, would be one of those great tools for universities to teach people about the history or history in general. Museums, you can see this playing very well. You tie this in with CSR, and insider and kind of indoor navigation, and this could be a very, very powerful combination. So I like this. I
like it. It's we'll see whether they can kind of bring it outside of their local community, their local area there. But functionally, in terms of the markets they're targeting, I think there's a lot of potential.
So Lavahound, just how it sounds, lavahound.com. Interested to know where the name comes from. But it's like their logo is like a flaming dog's head. So maybe they started with a logo. But I'm inclined to say that I'm interested in following up with these guys and following these guys to see what comes of this. I like the way they've done this. So, do you think that this falls closer to scavenger than Gowalla, or is it like you think it's right in the middle there? Is it leaning one way or the other?
I think it's in the middle. I think it's technology-wise, I think it's more scavenger. But business market or target market-wise, I think it's more Gowalla.
All right. Well, we'll check them out. Lavahound.com. It's an iOS only app. But play around with it. And I love the fact that they're looking at ways to turn this into revenue right away. So, anybody who's doing that right now, big ups in my book, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're on to the last story, if you can believe it. We're talking about the resource of the week. And boy, was this a shock when I read this. And this was a GigHome story, and it's that location-based ads are worth a lot more than non-location-based ads, than just normal display ads.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. But
oh my God.
Really, no.
Come on.
Anyways, so the data says that advertisers are paying close to 4 times or a 4 times premium on location-enabled ads on one of the platforms they source is something called NextAge's real-time bidding platform. So 4 times premium on location ads. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that? They had some statistic on Fruit Ninja having a multiple of 11
times
the premium.
Yeah.
And I think that's this is an interesting thing, because if you're not into this, I often think about media applications, newspapers, magazines, television, radio. We've talked about radio and proximity-based radio and advertising. And Triton Media is another one of these companies, really interesting guys that are engaged in that kind of location-aware radio stuff. But I often think about this, is that why aren't those guys embracing something like this, location-aware ads that and location-aware content, much more so than I've seen anyone do today? Because look, their revenues are plummeting for display advertising. Maybe not their revenues, but their eCPMs are plummeting, and now they have to sell 30 times more to get the same amount of revenue they did the year before. So why wouldn't they look at something like this? It's natural for them.
Totally. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, on the radio side and the content, the publishing side. I think there's huge opportunities, and I agree. I don't know why we haven't seen more of it yet, and. But I certainly expect, for me, that's got to be one of the big trends in the next year is more movement in terms of location-based content delivery, whether be it over radio, be it over an app, newspaper content, whatever. I expect a lot more of that.
Well, there's a company, there's a company called Mopub that was founded by ex-AdMob and Google employees. You saw this about they recently launched a real-time bidding auction platform for location-based ads. And that's an interesting play. That's what that's it's the Mopub marketplace, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see. So we got these NextAge guys that are covered in this study that we're talking about here. You've got guys like Mopub. You've got Local Response.
Yep.
I think all these guys are going to kind of be able to kind of corner a bit of that market in terms of having the bidding platforms that serve that need. So. And
I don't really think that location aware ads, display ads, and I'm not talking just about banner ads. Like we gotta get past the banner ad, the little stupid 300 by 100 pixel banner ads. But location aware something, advertising or engagement, the value of that, as the engagement grows and the ability to pinpoint gets much better, it's not going to go down, right? There's always going to be, like, if you can say, listen, Starbucks, bad example, Mr. Muffler. I'm going to pinpoint somebody who, I'm going to target somebody right next to you and bring them into your shop from your competitors, and it's going to cost you $99, but you're going to make $350 off of them. That is worth it, right? So I don't see that this diminishing in value at all. As we get smarter, and as these devices and networks get smarter, boy oh boy. And I think that we come back to this. The carrier holds the key to this all. But that's another story.
We've talked about that a lot of times. But anyways.
Well, that's it. So
that's it.
Obviously, the link will be up there, right up there somewhere, about location-based ads worth a lot more. I think it's a no-brainer, but it's worth the read. And if you are, check out Mopub if you're interested in this kind of stuff, or any of the other guys that we've talked about as well. What were the other guys that this report was based from? Who?
NextAge.
NextAge. Okay. Sorry, NextAge. My bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Episode number 50, Asif. I don't know what else we could do.
Well, what we could do is celebrate a little bit, and so one thing that we talked about at the start of this, Rob and I talked about is, how do we make episode 50 special? Because it is 50, and I think that's a pretty significant number. And so what we decided is that if you're listening to this and you're not yet a member of the Location-Based Marketing Association, check out our website, www.thelbma.com. And if you're interested in becoming a member, send us a note. You can send it to Rob or myself. You can reach me at asif@thelbma.com or at asifarkhan or at thelbma, or you can get a hold of Rob at Untether or at Rob Woodbridge. And let us know if you're interested. And this week only, so this is the week of November the 7th, for 7 days, you can become an LBMA member for 50% off. So basically, we're celebrating episode 50, and we're giving you a 50% discount on membership.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great offer. And so when we hit episode 100, what happens then?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
100% off. No, don't wait that long.
Yeah.
When we hit 100%...
we'll push out some special content over UrbanAirship.
Yeah, no kidding. That's exactly what we're going to do as soon as we build our own app for this thing. Well, that's very generous. So reach out to Asif, and for this week only, the week of the 50th episode, you get 50% off a membership for the LBMA. And I think that's worthwhile. That's very worthwhile. Go do it.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Asif at thelbma.com. Well, I can't wait. We've got a couple of weeks till we hit our 1 year anniversary. We still got a plan for that. Huge party, anyways, on a Sunday night over Skype. We'll do this way. But for those of you guys who are still watching, listening, we have had a tremendous amount of feedback and response from the last bunch of episodes. We really appreciate it. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Thank you so much. We've had feedback from as far as Australia, saying, listen, we really appreciate you guys keeping us in touch with what's going on in North America, and so we thank you so much for the response that we've had. Keep it coming. Right. You know how to reach us. Please do so.
Absolutely. And with that,
that's it. We'll see you next week for episode number 51. And of course, it's going to be a busy week, and we'll follow up with Asif when he gets back from New York City at this event this week. Guys, thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you are. We appreciate it so much. It's why we do this every week for 50 consecutive weeks. Thank you, guys. Asif, we'll see you next week, man.
That's it. Cheers.